You wake before the sun rises, but something feels wrong. The silence is not peaceful, it is heavy, unnatural, pressing against your chest as if the world itself is holding its breath. When you step outside, the air feels thick, almost sour, and the sounds that once defined life, vendors shouting, animals moving, neighbors talking, are gone. The street is empty, doors are closed, not locked, abandoned. It is the year 1348, and without fully understanding it, you are standing at the edge of one of the deadliest moments in human history. You walk slowly, your footsteps echoing louder than they should. A cart stands still in the middle of the road, its goods untouched. Fruit rots where it was once carefully arranged for sale. A dog wanders aimlessly, sniffing at something you choose not to examine too closely. The absence of people is not a coincidence. It is a warning. From where you stand, it is impossible to imagine that centuries later, from a land that does not yet exist, the United States, people will try to reconstruct this exact moment. They will study it, analyze it, and try to understand what you are living through. But right now, you don't have that distance. You only have uncertainty and fear. The disease did not arrive with noise or chaos. It slipped quietly into your world, hidden within the very systems that once brought prosperity. Ships arrived as they always had, carrying goods, fabrics, spices, and something else, something invisible. Rats moved freely along, the docks unnoticed, their fleas carrying death from one body to another, from one city to the next. You remember when the first rumors began, stories of a strange illness in distant lands, entire towns falling silent. At first it felt far away, almost unreal, but then it reached the ports, then the markets, then the homes. Now it is here. You don't know what causes it. No one does. There are no clear answers, only theories whispered in fear. Some say it lives in the air, that the air itself has turned against you, that something poisonous drifts unseen, entering your body with every breath. You find yourself holding your breath without realizing it, covering your mouth, avoiding the wind as if it carries death itself. Then the symptoms begin. You see it first in others. A man you recognize, once strong and full of life, now trembling, his skin pale and damp with sweat. He complains of fever, of a weakness so deep he can barely stand. Within a day, he cannot leave his bed. Within another, the swellings appear, dark, painful lumps beneath the skin forming in the groin, the neck, the armpits. You hear the word whispered with dread, buboes. You do not need anyone to explain what it means. Once they appear, death is close. Time begins to lose its meaning. Days blur together. People disappear. A house that was full of voices yesterday is silent today. No one enters. No one leaves. You begin to understand what that silence truly means. Bodies start to appear in the streets. First covered, then not at all, there are too many. Carts begin to move through the city, not to deliver goods, but to collect the dead. You watch as they are taken away, stacked together without ceremony, without names, without dignity. You tell yourself you will stay away. You tell yourself you will be careful. But there is no safe place left. Families vanish within days. A mother, a father, children, gone. Priests are called, but many do not return. Doctors attempt to help, but they fall just as quickly. Even those who are meant to guide and protect you are not immune. You begin to see it clearly now. Society is breaking. Fear replaces trust. Neighbors avoid each other. Doors are not just closed, they are abandoned. Some flee, believing distance will save them. Others lock themselves inside, hoping isolation will protect them. But the disease does not respect walls, distance, or hope. And yet, in the middle of this collapsing world, something else begins to appear. At first, you only catch glimpses. A figure moving slowly through the street, tall, covered from head to toe. Not a priest, not a soldier, something different. You watch from a distance as it approaches a house marked by silence. The figure does not hesitate. It enters. Moments later, it emerges again, unchanged, unaffected, as if it belongs to another reality. As it moves closer, You finally see it clearly, and your breath stops. Its face is not a face. It is a mask, shaped like the beak of a bird. Dark, hollow, unnatural. You don't know if it brings help or something worse, but you understand one thing immediately: where that figure walks, death is already there. And if you want to understand how humanity tried to survive this nightmare, you need to keep watching, because what comes next will reveal a desperate fight against the unknown that changed history forever. You watch from a distance, trying to understand what you are seeing, but nothing about it feels familiar. In a world already consumed by fear, the presence of this figure does not bring comfort. It deepens the uncertainty. You are taught that doctors heal, that they bring knowledge, answers, relief. But here, in the year 1348, the role of a physician has become something else entirely. It is both sacred and cursed. To step into that role is to walk directly into death, to face something no one truly understands, and somehow survive it. But survival is not guaranteed, not even close. You begin to realize that the man behind the mask is not always what you would expect. He is not necessarily trained, not necessarily skilled, not even necessarily prepared. In many cases, he is simply someone willing, someone desperate enough or brave enough to accept a task that others refuse. Cities hire them, nobles pay them. Entire communities rely on them, not because they trust them, but because there is no one else left to call. You wonder what kind of person agrees to such a role. Is it courage, or is it resignation? Because to become one of them is to accept a simple truth: you will be surrounded by death every single day. And yet you cannot look away. You watch as the figure approaches another house. The door is marked, a silent signal that something inside is wrong. No one else dares to get close, but the doctor does not hesitate. He steps forward, slowly, deliberately, as if the weight of the moment does not affect him, or as if he has already accepted what waits on the other side. But how does he protect himself? How do you protect yourself from something you cannot see, cannot touch, cannot even understand? The answer in this world is not built on science. It is built on belief. You begin to notice the details of the mask. The long, curved beak is not empty. It is filled, packed with dried flowers, crushed herbs, spices, even cloth soaked in vinegar. Lavender, rosemary, mint, strong scents meant to overpower something far more dangerous: the air itself. Because here, people believe the disease lives in the air, that it travels through foul smells, through invisible poison carried by the wind. And if that is true, then the solution seems logical: filter the air, purify it, block it before it reaches the body. The mask is not a symbol of fear. It is an attempt at survival. Every part of the doctor's outfit follows that same idea. You begin to see it clearly now. The long coat, made of thick leather, covers the body completely, creating a barrier between skin and world. Gloves protect the hands. Boots seal the feet. There is no exposed flesh. Not even the eyes are left vulnerable. They are hidden behind glass lenses, creating a final layer between the doctor and whatever might be waiting outside. Every inch of him is concealed. From where you stand, he no longer looks like a man. He looks like something else entirely: a creature, a shadow, a presence that does not belong to the same reality as you. And maybe that is the point. Because when he moves through the streets, people do not approach him. They step back. They clear the path. They watch in silence, knowing that his presence means one thing: the disease is already here. You feel it too. That instinct to move away, to create distance, to avoid even the possibility of contact. And that is exactly what the doctor is trying to do as well. Distance becomes survival. You notice the stick in his hand. At first it seems unnecessary, but then you understand. He uses it to point, to lift, to examine, without touching. He does not get close unless he has to. He does not rely on his hands. Everything he does is measured, calculated, designed to keep space between himself and the infected. Because contact could mean death. But even with all these precautions, something feels incomplete. Because deep down you begin to understand the truth that no one wants to say out loud. None of this is certain. None of this is proven. It is an attempt, a theory, a fragile defense built on assumptions and fear. And still, it is all they have. You watch as the doctor disappears inside the house, the door closing behind him. Time passes slowly. You don't know what is happening inside, but you can imagine it. The heat, the smell, the suffering, the silence broken only by labored breathing or the absence of it. When the door opens again, he steps out exactly as he entered, covered, protected, distant. But something has changed, because now you know what he carries with him. Not just the risk of disease, but the weight of witnessing death again and again. You begin to see his role more clearly. He is not just a healer. In many cases, he cannot heal at all. Instead, he becomes something else. A recorder of the end, a witness to the final moments. He writes down names, confirms deaths, oversees the last wishes of those who know they will not survive. He is there not only for the living, but for the dying. And that realization shifts everything, because suddenly the mask is not just protection. It is a barrier, not only between him and the disease, but between him and emotion, between him and fear, between him and the unbearable reality of what surrounds him. You wonder what it does to a person, to walk through this world every day, to see what he sees, to hear what he hears, and to keep going. Is it strength? Or is it something closer to numbness? Because even with the mask, even with the coat, even with every layer of protection, something is missing. Certainty. And without certainty, every step he takes could be his last. You feel it now more than ever, the fragile line between those who observe and those who become part of it. Because the truth is simple and impossible to ignore. Everything about him is designed to survive, but survival is never guaranteed. And if you want to understand why these doctors became one of the most haunting symbols in history and what their existence reveals about the limits of human knowledge, then stay with me, because what comes next will take you deeper into a world where medicine exists without science and hope exists without proof. You begin to realize that if you truly want to understand the figure behind the mask, you must first understand the world that created him. Because the Beaked mask is not just a response to fear, it is the result of limits of knowledge, of science, of understanding. You are living in a time where medicine exists, but truth does not. There are no answers here that you would recognize, no laboratories, no microscopes, no concept of invisible organisms invading the body. The idea that something too small to be seen could cause death is beyond imagination. Instead, everything you are taught is built on ancient theories passed down through centuries, ideas that feel complete, even if they are not correct. At the center of it all is the belief in balance. You hear it repeated constantly. The human body, they say, is governed by 4 humors: blood, phlegm, black bile, and yellow bile. Health exists when these elements are in harmony. Disease appears when they fall out of balance. It is simple. It is logical. And in a world without evidence, it is enough. So when the sickness comes, the goal is not to destroy it, because no one knows what it is. The goal is to restore balance. You watch as treatments begin, each one guided by this belief. Bloodletting is one of the most common. A blade is used to open a vein, and blood is drained slowly, carefully, as if releasing something harmful from within. Sometimes leeches are applied instead, their small bodies feeding as the patient lies still, hoping that with each drop removed, the illness will weaken. You stand there, watching, unsure whether what you are seeing is healing or harm, because the patient grows weaker, not stronger. Then come the remedies, mixtures of herbs, roots, and oils. Some are bitter, others strangely fragrant. They are given with confidence, with authority, as if their effectiveness is unquestionable. But you begin to notice something disturbing. Those who take them do not always improve. Sometimes they decline faster. And yet, the treatments continue, because there is nothing else. Then you witness something that stays with you. A patient, already marked by the disease, lies barely conscious. The swelling beneath the skin has grown large, dark, stretched tight. The doctor approaches, not with hesitation, but with purpose. A tool is prepared. The skin is cut open. There is no relief. There is no calm. Only pain. The belief is that what lies inside is corrupted, that releasing it might restore balance, might give the body a chance to recover. But what you see instead is suffering. The body weakens further. The strength that remained begins to fade. And still, the effort continues, because stopping would mean admitting that nothing works. You begin to understand something deeper now. These treatments are not just medical, they are emotional. They are a way to act in the face of helplessness, a way to fight even without knowing how. And in that fight, the beaked mask takes on a new meaning. It is not just protection. It is a symbol of humanity trying to defend itself against the unknown. Every herb in the beak, every layer of leather, every barrier between doctor and patient, it all reflects a single idea. If we cannot understand it, we will still try to survive it. But the plague does not slow. Despite every effort, every treatment, every belief, it continues to spread. You begin to hear new measures being taken, entire cities closing their gates, travelers turned away, ships arriving at port, forced to wait, 40 days before anyone is allowed to disembark. You hear the term spoken with increasing frequency, quarantine. 40 days of isolation, 40 days of waiting, 40 days of hoping that whatever is inside does not escape. But even that is not enough, because somehow the disease finds its way through. It moves quietly, invisibly, ignoring borders, ignoring rules, ignoring every attempt to contain it. And as it spreads, something else spreads with it. Fear. You feel it in the way people look at each other, in the distance they keep, in the silence that replaces conversation. Trust begins to disappear. Neighbors become threats, strangers become dangers. And then something even more painful begins to happen. People start to leave each other behind. You see it in the streets. A child alone, a door left open, but no one inside willing to return. Parents abandoning children, friends abandoning friends, not out of cruelty, but out of terror. Because staying could mean dying. Communities fracture, bonds dissolve. The invisible enemy does not just attack the body, it attacks the very idea of human connection. And when fear reaches its peak, people search for meaning. Some believe this is punishment, that something divine has been unleashed, that the suffering is deserved, that repentance is the only path to survival. Others look for someone to blame, someone to point at, someone to hold responsible for what cannot be explained. And in that search, darkness grows. But through all of this, the doctors keep walking. You see them again, moving through streets that feel more like graveyards than places of life, entering homes where silence has replaced breath, standing beside those who know they are at the end. They do not stop. They do not turn away. Even when everything around them suggests that survival is slipping further, out of reach. And that is when you understand the final truth. This is medicine without certainty, without proof, without answers. And yet, it continues. Because even in a world where knowledge fails, the instinct to fight remains. The instinct to try, the instinct to survive. And if you want to see how this desperate struggle reshaped the future, how it transformed not only medicine, but the course of human history itself, then stay with me, because the final chapter will reveal what was left. Behind after the world came this close to ending. You step out of that world slowly, as if pulling yourself away from something that still lingers in your mind. The silence, the fear, the presence of death. It does not disappear easily. And now, standing in the present in a place that did not even exist at the time, the United States, you begin to look back, not as someone trapped inside the plague, but as someone trying to understand it. From here, everything feels different. You are no longer surrounded by uncertainty. You live in a world of explanations, of science, of knowledge built over centuries. You understand what they could not. You know that the disease was not in the air, not in the smell, not in some invisible poison carried by the wind. It was bacteria, it was transmission. It was something real, something measurable. But knowing that does not make what you witnessed any less powerful. Because when you look back at the plague doctor now, you do not see just a figure of medicine. You see something far more complex, a symbol of fear, yes, the kind of fear that reshapes behavior, that isolates people, that turns communities into shadows of what they once were. But also a symbol of ignorance, not as a failure, but as a condition of the time, a reminder that knowledge is not something that has always existed. It had to be built, slowly, painfully, through generations. And yet, there is something else, something unexpected, resilience. Because despite everything you saw, the suffering, the failed treatments, the misunderstandings, you also saw something that cannot be ignored. You saw people trying. You saw a world that refused to simply collapse, even when it had every reason to. The beaked mask, strange and unsettling as it may appear to you now, becomes something different when viewed through that lens. It is no longer just a symbol of fear. It is one of the earliest attempts at protection. A crude, imperfect, but deeply human response to danger. It reflects an instinct that transcends time, the need to survive. Even when you do not understand what you are facing, even when every solution feels uncertain, even when the odds are impossible. And as you continue to reflect, you begin to understand the true scale of what happened. This was not a localized event. It was not a contained outbreak. It was a transformation. The Black Death did not just take lives, it reshaped the structure of society itself. Millions were lost. Entire. Populations reduced. In some regions, 1 out of every 3 people simply vanished. And with that loss came consequences that no one could have predicted. Labor became scarce. Suddenly, those who remained had value in a way they never had before. Workers could demand more. Systems that once relied on rigid hierarchies began to weaken. The foundations of feudal life started to crack. The world began to shift. Slowly at first, almost invisibly, but inevitably. And alongside those changes, something else began to evolve. Medicine, not immediately, not dramatically, but gradually over time the limitations you witnessed began to push humanity forward. Questions that once had no answers started to demand them. Observations became patterns, patterns became theories, and eventually those theories became science. The journey was long. It stretched across centuries, but it began here, in a world where people tried to fight something they did not yet understand. And when you think about that, the image of the plague doctor changes again. You see the dark robe, you see the glass-covered eyes, you see the long, hollow beak filled with herbs. But instead of seeing something distant, something strange, something almost unreal, you begin to recognize something familiar. A moment in human history where knowledge had not yet caught up with necessity, a moment where survival depended not on certainty, but on effort. And that is what remains. Not just the fear, not just the ignorance, but the attempt. The refusal to do nothing, the decision to act even without proof. You realize now that this image has endured not because of how strange it looks, but because of what it represents. A reminder of how far humanity has come and how it got there. Because every advancement you rely on today, every piece of knowledge that feels obvious now, was once unknown. And someone, somewhere, had to face that unknown first, just like they did. So as you leave this story behind, you carry something with you, not just the memory of a dark time, but the understanding that progress is often born from uncertainty, and that survival is not always about having the right answers, but about refusing to stop searching for them. And if this journey changed the way you see history, medicine, and the human instinct to survive, make sure to stay with us, subscribe, and keep exploring. Because there are more hidden truths waiting to be uncovered.